Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. We have a very special guest here, Jordan Chariton. Jordan, how you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me, Graham.
I appreciate it. So you are in Flint, Michigan. We just had the, I believe, 5-year anniversary of the water crisis. And you've been working on a documentary covering this. I watched some of it. I'll just let you start to explain. So where are we at with the water in Flint, and what have you uncovered through this documentary?
Yeah, so last summer and fall, myself, my partner Jen, we started knocking on doors in Flint because, unfortunately, a lot of times when the state makes declarations with the water is better and the water is meeting EPA regulations, you can't always trust the state, particularly under now former Governor Rick Snyder. So we had reason to think that the testing numbers that they were putting out saying we're meeting EPA regulations were manipulated. So we started knocking on doors, and we found extensive evidence that they were flushing residents' water lines, meaning running their water, in some cases for 10, 15 minutes before taking lead and copper samples, which in English is cooking the testing. I mean, you're basically running the water that, you know, if you run the water, even for like 30 seconds to a minute, you could be basically flushing out high quantities of lead that are inside the home. So we found they did this in at least 35 homes. We were going to break the story in November with Newsweek magazine, but I could do a book on dealing with corporate media. But they killed it at the last minute, so we self-published it.
That's weird. Wait a minute. Let me see if I got this right. The corporate media, who has covered this like almost not, they've given no time to this, they killed this story.
Absolutely. They killed it. Not just one. Newsweek killed it, Vice killed it, and Daily Beast originally was interested, and then they moonwalked. And to tell you the truth, I mean, there really was no good reason for it other than, they're infatuated with Trump, Russia, and whatever nonsense of the day, and are very disconnected from what's happening, in real, I don't want to say Sarah Palin's real America, but like reality. So we have been out here, and it's really astounding. I mean, the state environmental officials were literally cooking up the numbers, then spinning around those numbers and using them to declare the water safe. And when they declared the water safe with these manipulated testing numbers, they shut down the remaining, they called it the water pods, where residents could get water bottles for free. And the media has just regurgitated this. You see New York Times, Washington Post, everyone. Oh, Flint's meeting federal regulations. So we kind of being, I guess a little naive, we're like, this is a big scandal. They were cooking the numbers. I mean, we've knocked on 450 doors. We've spoken with 150 residents. We not only found they were cooking the numbers, I mean, some homes they were putting on the official state testing program had full filtration systems in them. So you're supposed to be testing without a filter. They were testing homes with like, not even just not just a filter on the tap, but like throughout their home, a filtration system. So ultimately, the governor of Michigan, the new governor, recently confirmed our reporting. She was doing a panel in Flint saying, about reports of running the water first. We met with the Solicitor General of Michigan in February. She is under the Attorney General, and we showed them the evidence. I've had some follow-up communications with them, but it's been shocking that mainstream media outlets, when we've presented this to them, I've gotten basically either we don't have the bandwidth to cover this, or we don't have, you're freelance. We only, we'll handle it with our reporters. And I want people to understand, because it kind of gets lost in like the scientific testing, like they cheated. Erin Brockovich is on the record saying they cheated on the water testing for 2 years. They were flushing away the evidence, which means, if the testing is incredible, how do we know what the actual today levels are in the water of lead and copper? Which, if we don't know the levels, then children are drinking this because most of the families here are too poor to go buy cases and cases of bottled water. This is not New York. This is not LA. This is Flint, Michigan. It's 42% poverty. So children can still potentially be drinking contaminated water. And your audience should know, because I was here yesterday on the 5-year anniversary, the media presents this as like something that happened in the past. There's people still today, 5 years later, getting rashes from this water, losing hair from this water. I spoke with residents who get nosebleeds. You have residents who literally need to get out of the shower because they feel like they're going to faint. So this is a situation of, this is kind of like I always say, this is where the controlled demolition of the middle class meets catastrophe, which is the water.
I'm shocked at this, and then I'm not. On the one, I'm shocked that this is happening in America, but then also just seeing this kleptocracy and the oligarchs that run it, it's like, of course they would shut this down. Why? Here's the question I have. Why is this such a hard problem to fix? Why can't somebody just say, we need whatever it is, 150 million or whatever the dollar amount is? I know it's less than the F-35 bomber. I know it's less than that, which is, who knows, that's 1.5 trillion. I know they could take it out of the $21 trillion that the Pentagon can't seem to find. I'm sure they could find the amount of money in there. How come they can't just go, we need this amount of money, give it to us, we'll fix this?
Well, there's ways that it could have been fixed within a year, within 2 years, for, what are they fighting over? 755 billion now for the Pentagon, or whatever. The Democrats' compromise is 730 billion. I mean, it's all laughable. This could have been fixed in a year, but there's a catch. As I've seen reporting out in the field, a lot of cities around America, from San Francisco to Seattle to LA, they really like to gentrify and build up like a 10 to 15 block radius and then leave the rest of the city to rot, hoping that essentially they could just push the poor people out, rent prices go up. I mean, Seattle, I was just there covering, Amazon's economic terrorism. What else do you call it? It's all homeless people because they can't afford the rent, which has gone up because of Jeff Bezos. Anyway, really what I see is the problem can be fixed, but the state of Michigan, to be clear, under the last governor, Rick Snyder, didn't want to fix the problem. So they were kicking and screaming. They didn't want to replace the service lines, which are the service lines from the curb to the valve. They were forced to do it because the residents, the ACLU and others sued the state and won $98 million, which is the only reason that they're even replacing service lines. But Snyder's administration wouldn't touch people's interior, like the plumbing inside their home that was destroyed by the Flint River water that wasn't treated properly. They were itching to shut down those water pods probably 2 years before they did, and use these manipulated testing numbers to do so. And what's the difference between Flint and, San Francisco? You got poor people, mostly black, but a lot of white people, and they just don't care. I mean, these are powerful white lawmakers in the governor's mansion and in DC that, hey, that's tough luck. We'll give you flimsy filters. We'll screw with the testing to declare it over, and we'll move on. Because they really, and this might sound conspiratorial, but this is my 14th time here. I've done hundreds of interviews. I've spoken with experts. I know what I'm talking about. This could have been fixed and would have been fixed. If this was LA, if this was Chicago, if this was Upper West Side, you would have the National Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers within probably a week, would have been fixed in 6 months. So this is environmental racism on steroids, but I want your viewers to understand it's also an environmental cover-up. I mean, you're talking about, and you're watching the documentary, so you see what we found. You're talking about state officials going into residents' homes that were on the official state testing program. This state testing program was kind of like the focus group. And from this, after manipulating the testing, running the water, getting, it's called falsifying a regulatory compliance test. It's a crime. Taking this data, think about George W. Bush and his fighter pilot dropping mission accomplished. This was Flint's mission accomplished. Right. It's a crime. And honestly, I don't know what's a bigger crime, the fact that we found this or the media totally blowing it off. I mean, if I showed you my correspondence with the Daily Beast, Vice News, Newsweek, the New York Times, it's shocking because we have the evidence. The Attorney General of Michigan's office does not meet with bozo bloggers. We provided the evidence that they met with us, and we've been in communication since. And it's the same thing. I mean, I know reporters from the New York Times that were assigned to go cover Flint 2 years ago. They're on their way, and they get a call from their editor to come back on something else. I mean, this is an environmental crisis that really never stopped being a crisis. But, you know, when Trump goes down that escalator and the media goes like a bunch of, you know, sheep, everything else, because it's not just Flint, there's other places with water problems, but Flint was a man-made disaster. This was government officials who did this. So it's disastrous.
Do you think, too, because I've heard that as many as 3,000 cities in America have lead levels at Flint or higher. Do you think that's part of the reason they're covering it up? Is they're afraid there's just going to be this like house of cards and then everyone's going to have to fix everything and, oh God, we're going to have to stop spending $700 and some billion bombing poor brown people in the Middle East and actually help poor people in America, or just people who like clean water? Do you think that's part of it?
Well, I also want to point out that story you're referencing, Reuters. It's not Reuters' fault, but as Aaron Brockovich said, you can't credibly say 3,000 other cities have higher lead levels than Flint. The data you're using to compare Flint to other cities was cooked. Like, they were going in and flushing away the evidence. Now, we only knocked on 450 doors. That's a lot, but the city has 40,000. So it could be way more widespread. You know, we're a startup media company. Join us, statuscoup.com/join. We didn't have the funding to be out there forever, but I would take issue with Reuters, not their reporting, but like they just assumed the state's numbers were correct when this is the very state environmental agency putting these numbers out that literally lied to the EPA during this crisis, saying, oh no, we're treating the water with all the chemicals. They weren't. That's why the lead leached out in the first place. But so that's number one. That story needs to be amended until they do accurate and independent testing that has some, like, you know, legal observers watching to make sure they're doing it right. But secondly, I think they don't want to fix it for multiple reasons. Number one, I think they want the poor people out of here, to tell you the truth. They want to bulldoze. If you've ever come to Flint, the north side doesn't look so different than Baghdad after being bombed. I mean, you have rows and rows of blocks with nothing. Houses have been burned down, empty lots, grass that's been grown for, 5-10 years. I think they want the poor people out because they want to bring in new investors, bring in new businesses, build high-rise luxury apartments, make it more of a yuppie college town. We know that they're doing this in many cities around the country. Bernie is actually the only one I've heard on the campaign trail talk about gentrification as something that's not good, But the other reason,
You've got Pete Buttigieg in South Bend, Indiana. He revitalized downtown South Bend, and then there's poor neighborhoods who have literally, the people like, I haven't seen Mayor Pete come near us. Like, it's all over the U.S.
When you hear economic development, run. Because what that means is we're bringing in foundation money, we're bringing in Koch-like money, we're bringing in Soros kind of money, and we're going to beautify and revitalize a 10 to 20 block radius and leave the rest either rot. And that's what's happened. I mean, in New York City, the people that lived in Harlem used to live in the Upper East Side. They just keep getting pushed up and pushed up and pushed up. So it's a story. I don't even like the term environmental racism because it's just racism. And frankly, I don't want to say it wasn't, it definitely is a racial thing, but it's also a class thing. Because there's a lot of poor white people in Flint that used to be middle class. But I think the other reason they don't want to fix it is because it's not just a lead problem. You have bacteria that was in that water. You have something called PFAS, which they're finding in other water bodies all over the country. They're chemicals that are kind of the byproduct of manufacturing Teflon. They cause cancer, and they've been found in North Carolina, the Ohio River Valley, in Michigan, in many other cities. But the media, what's water? It's not an important story. They found TTHMs in this water. So it's not just fixing the infrastructure. If all of this comes out that these people have been poisoned with this many chemicals, it's a lot of money you got to throw to the problem. That strengthens the argument for something like Medicare for All. And that also, if there's entities there are entities in Flint and Michigan, foundations in particular, that don't want the Flint water crisis to continue because they want to bring in new investment. And if there's a continuing water crisis, well, you're going to get business people to come in here. So it's very, very, it sounds like a 1984 sinister thing. It's true. I'm telling you, because we knocked on the doors, we did something very radical. We did old school like journalism. And I'm telling you, they cooked the testing. And not only that, you could take the EPA's word for things. They've been known to game testing in the past. But all you have to do if you come here, whether you're a journalist or just an activist, you knock on doors, you see residents still not in 2014, not in 2015, rashes. I met in my documentary, you'll see it. There was a 1-year-old African-American child. The family just moved into this house in Flint. They lived in a different house in Flint, but they just moved into this house in Flint. Within a few weeks, the 1-year-old daughter has white blisters all over her legs and arms. She didn't have it before they moved into that house. They came to her home. They did a test for chlorine. They run the water for 10 minutes. Chlorine testing is different. You can run the water. They told her it's fine. The baby's got white blisters on her earlobes, on her legs, on her arms. The son is 5. I'm talking to him. The mother tells me, ask him to recite the alphabet. Stops after F. Used to know the whole alphabet. I mean, this is everywhere in Flint. Behavioral problems with children, cognitive decline. You have people. I just interviewed. That's why I was late. I just interviewed a 38-year-old. Takes 8 medications a day, severe body pain, severe heart palpitations, anxiety, rheumatoid arthritis, a 38-year-old, never had a problem in her life. Cancers are developing. But the media story is, oh, Flint's on the mend, or it's a trust issue. It ain't a trust issue. It's a water issue still. So I thank you for covering it, because honestly, it's a sad world when you have to depend on Jimmy Dore, Graham Elwood, Mike from the Humanist Report, RT America, who I happen to like. I mean, you have to depend on non-traditional journalists, and the real journalists are basically just like tweeting and following, the horse race, and
I'm so infuriated. First of all, thanks for doing this, for knocking on the 450 doors. Thanks for.
Well, I just want to make sure Jen is my partner. She knocked on it with me, so it wasn't just me. Jen Dyes is a great journalist, and she's been here with me every step of the way. But go ahead.
Well, great. Thank you for giving her credit, and I hope everybody goes to Status Coup and starts supporting you, because this is like real. This is what journalism used to be. And we've got Rachel Maddow crying for 2 years about Russia, Russia, Russia. No tears on this. No tears on these babies with the lesions and the behavioral problems. No tears about a woman with rheumatoid arthritis at age 38. No, the thing I don't even understand, it is driving me crazy. If I'm a business person, that's why I'm just a dollars and cents guy. All I care about is money and developing, and I want to develop Flint. I would say, let's get the water fixed. Get it clean, get it fixed, and then we say the water's clean. Bring your investment money here. Here we go. I don't know. You're so stupid. You're such a fucking idiot. The officials in Michigan are so dumb, because this only gets worse. Covering stuff like, have you no historical reference? I want to sit these morons down. It only gets worse. Ask the Catholic Church. Ask Penn State University. Ask anybody that covered something up. It only gets worse. I don't get it.
Well, it depends who you want to fix the water for. Like I said, if you don't want these poor black and white people in Flint, if you want, there's something called the land bank here. I don't want to bore your audience, but it's basically like a government bank. They have purchased so many homes in Flint, and they're just demolishing it. Why is that? Because they want the land. And they're doing, it's not just Flint. This is happening all over the country. Your viewers probably have seen it in their cities, where all of a sudden, and Mayor Pete too. What is Mayor Pete being credited for his big accomplishment in South Bend? Beautifying 10 blocks. Because I interviewed a mayoral candidate, Regina Williams Prescott. The rest of South Bend is doing horribly. It's got homelessness, this and that, but the media don't focus on that. You focus on the money and where the money's going. But the problem is, what you're talking sense, and you're talking as if the business people also, two things are exclusive together, that they also want to fix the water. They would fix, I guarantee you, Graham, if they were able to push out a lot of these poorer people in Flint, a lot of these minorities, and you start bringing in these business, water problem would be fixed overnight. And a lot of people don't like that message, but that's how the residents here feel. And this used to be a city of, I think at its height, 250,000 to 300,000. It's down to a little under 100,000 now, I believe. So, bottom line, all you have to look at, there's food deserts throughout this city. There's education deserts. I mean, there's desert after desert. There's a news desert. Frankly, the local, and this is a problem throughout the country, the local media is essentially propaganda. It just regurgitates whatever the state tells them. Same thing with national media. So, I always say to people that, we're trying to get funding from, good people, not the plutocrats, we don't really have any competition. Every time we're in the field, there's nobody here. We go to press conferences, there's no national media. It's just us. So we're scratching together quarters. We're building for sure. We've been going for a year and we're building up. But and honestly, I feel bad because Jimmy had me on and Mike had me on and all these people had me on. We were going to premiere our documentary this week. But fortunately, like last minute, we kind of got some tea leaves that a larger distributor might be interested. So we're holding off on premiering it until we know for sure that, I mean, if this could get on someplace like a Netflix or something like that, we'd be dumb not to take that up. So, but we're premiering the documentary Sunday in person for Flint residents because honestly, the media is not reporting this. So we want the residents to know, hey, this testing that they used is cooked. And if you watch the documentary, I know you saw some of it. It's overwhelming. I mean, we spoke with so many residents, and it's not like we prompted them. They were like, yeah, they ran the water. I'm like, for how long? Minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. One person said 20 minutes. It's just unbelievable that the environmental officials who they know how they're supposed to do it because the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, their own YouTube video with instructions to residents says, don't flush the water before sampling. So, and the EPA, by the way, is helping to cover it up. They're not doing a damn thing. The mayor of Flint is silent. I just got a congressman from Flint who was silent for 3 months on this to finally call him for an investigation, but only because I made him squirm in an interview and I cornered him. So it's truly astounding why we know the government's corrupt, but you don't think of the government as like intentionally standing by and endangering your life, but they are.
And your children's lives. I mean, first of all, I just, good for you on waiting to get distribution. I've done 2 documentaries myself, and especially with a story like what you're covering, it is better for it to get seen on a bigger platform. So if Holding Out gets it on Netflix or Hulu or someone like that, more power to you, and we'll have you back on the show when it's available to the public. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for taking.
It is available. It is available. It is available now, though. We made it available for our paying members with a link and a password because we've been talking it up so much. We want them to be able to see it. We're just not making it available where you could purchase it for everybody because obviously Netflix, if we did that, ain't going to be interested.
So tell people what your website is, how they can get involved, how they can help support what you're doing, because you're actually the only journalist out there in Flint, Michigan.
So we are statuscoup.com. We are actually, you might not know it because YouTube suppresses the hell out of us. I'm sure you too. We're Status Coup on YouTube. This week we haven't been because we're doing interviews, but normally we're live 5 o'clock Eastern. Actually, I shouldn't say live because they banned us from going live for 3 months on YouTube because CNN filed a copyright against us. So anyway, I'm having to record a stream for an hour and a half and then air it at 5. Anyway, we're on at 5 o'clock Eastern time on YouTube. I always tell viewers they're not going to notify you, so just put it in your phone if you want to watch it as a reminder. So, and yeah, we've been, in a year, we've been to Chicago, Flint several times. We just got back from Seattle, Dallas, Virginia. I mean, we've been so many places just through viewers signing up as members. We got plans as low as $5 and $10 a month. We did a GoFundMe. And yeah, youtube.com/statuscoup, statuscoup.com/join to be a member. And I always say, listen, of course I want you to join us. This is our funding. We're not taking money from the Democratic Party oligarchs, the GOP oligarchs, banks, oil companies.
Nestle.
We're taking money. Yeah, we're taking money from our viewers. But for whatever reason, if we're not your cup of tea, just fund in the actual independent outlets, because it's really becoming, between Google and their rankings suppressing independent and anti-war voices, YouTube suppression, Facebook I don't bother with anymore. It's literally nobody sees when we're live on Facebook or anybody else. They're just stuffing CNN and New York Times through your feeds. Support independent journalism. We hope you could fit us in because it's important. We're kind of walking the walk. There's a lot of outlets out there that tell you to join, and what are they doing? You pay money and they do Trump and Russia and Stormy Daniels. And, listen, Trump, there's plenty of people covering Trump. If you want to know what's actually happening in America, we're your guys and gals.
Well, to everybody watching, I'll put Status Coup. I'll put the link to Jordan's site in the show notes. So please, I say this all the time to all the viewers here, is support independent media and support work. And I know some of you are like, I only got so much money. Whatever, pick the ones that work for you and support it. Even just, sharing some of Jordan's videos out on your social media, even if you only have a couple hundred followers, because you never know who needs to hear about that. If you have friends and family that live in Michigan, absolutely share Jordan's videos, because they can wake up to the fact that the media in Michigan and the politicians in Michigan are lying to them. So there's a lot. I always say there's so many little things you can do as a viewer. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm just all alone. You're not all alone. You're all political vigilantes. You all get involved on a local level that helps affect change. You're just one guy, and now you have you're two people, and you have this little thing, and you've grown it, and it's amazing. And I look forward. Tell us the name of the doc. I know it's not available to the public, but what's the name of it?
Flushing Flint, and it really shows in depth two things. I think one is the nitty gritty, like they were cheating on the testing, how we found it. And I think the other part that we're trying to show is just like the human ongoing wrecking ball that's going on here. I mean, the conversations we have with people, Graham, I mean, you'd have to be a sociopath not to watch this and just have a mix of sadness, fury, and dumbfounding. Like, why? How is this make America great again? Give me a break. Like, yeah, we're making America great for Donald Trump, his toupee, and his donors. That's it. So I hope people watch it. Again, like if you're a paying member, once you sign up, it's in our member section. Same thing with Patreon. So we hope people sign up, and hopefully I'm back with you and with great news that it's going to be at a larger platform.
I can't wait to hear more about it and to push it out there when it is available for public consumption. Everybody watching, again, go to statuscoup.com. and like and subscribe to these videos. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button. And double check, because they're unsubscribing people, as Jordan has talked about. That's what they're doing. Hit the bell notification button. I do a live chat every Sundays at 3, Super Chat Sunday. And there's a million ways. Watch the ads. Don't click skip ad. I don't get paid when you do that. And there's a million ways through my Patreon, through Rockfin, to support this show and support other independent media people like Jordan. Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate the work you guys are doing.
I just want to add one more thing. I'm a Bernie guy. Totally inexcusable, the silence on Assange. I see your shirt. So, hey, we could be progressive and fans of Bernie, but I have a hard time understanding the silence on, I mean, this guy has won more journalism awards than anyone I know. And he's basically being sent to a death sentence. I mean, make no mistake, if he's extradited, they're going to throw other charges. Yeah.
They're going to kill him.
So,
they're going to try to kill him and Chelsea Manning, without a doubt. And that's the thing too. That's the difference, I think, is I support Bernie, but I'm going to hold him more accountable than anybody else. You know what I mean? If he becomes president and he's like, oh well, we have to invade Iran, I'm going to be like, fuck you, man. Like I tell people, I go, oh, you're a big, you love Bernie. I don't love Bernie. I don't. He's not my guy. I like his policies and his voting record. That's what I'm for. And if he doesn't hold his promise, or he's like silent on Julian Assange or something like that, then I'm going to call him out on it. That's just the way it is. And so we should be talking about it. We should bring this up.
Agree 100%.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate your time, and thank you to everybody for watching. You were all political vigilantes, and thank you for making Gotham great again.
Thanks.